Over the past weekend we had spoilers and trailers and reveals for DC movies and video games. Games Workshop revealed all sorts of new toys and goodies for across the Warhammer range. But the most exciting part, of course, of the weekend of everyone revealing fucking everything is, of course, spoilers and reveals for both Commander Legends and that new spellbook. It's actually called Commander Collection Green, but I keep thinking of it as a spellbook. It's not. I'll come to that later. I'm Vince, also known as PleasantKenobi on the internet. Let's talk about my first impressions of these new exciting things. So I guess we should start with the elephant in the room. The rare land cycle from Commander Legends is going to be the completion of the Battlebond lands. We're getting the enemy coloured versions, as you can see on screen here. This is a great place to put these lands. Honestly, it makes perfect sense. This is a draft set for multiplayer match of Commander, so this is ideal. I don't see why anyone could be mad about this. Except for those of us, wanting fetch lands. Those of you watching this video who are looking to get into Modern or Legacy at some point, or want fetch lands for the Commander decks, apart from those people. Because I understand why you're frustrated. We know they're not coming in Zendikar. I'm going to talk more about where I think they're going to show up in tomorrow's video. That's the thumbnail for tomorrow's video. Tune in tomorrow for that, I guess. What I will say on that whole discussion right now is that it's depressing that across Reddit and Twitter and YouTube and every social media platform, people are frustrated and taking their frustrations out on the fact that the Battlebond lands have been revealed for Commander Legends. And it's a shame that a set like Commander Legends and those Battlebond lands are marred by this sort of stigma or this negative taint that the fetch lands are bringing. How could that ever have been avoided? Isn't the fault of you or I, it isn't the fault of the average person on social media or the godlike content creators like myself. The blame for that really lies with Wizards of the Coast. I'd also hazard to guess that the people designing this set, the architects, the people designing the new cards, like Gavin Verhey and his teams, they aren't the ones doing this either. I mean, I know people throw a lot of ire and frustration at Wizards, and I just said that Wizards are to blame, and they are, but I feel like it's an executive decision, or perhaps as someone who's not public-facing, whose job it is to make sure they don't spend too much reprint equity per set, or make sure certain cards retain their value so the collectors don't get upset. And I know that sounds like borderline conspiratory. Is that the word? Conspirational? Definitely conspiratory, not the second one. I know it sounds borderline tin fat? Jesus Christ, talking is hard today. I know it sounds borderline tinfoil hat territory, but I genuinely believe this is the case. There's no other reason as to why they would mismanage or fuck up the reprint of these lands so fucking hard. Anyway, that's more for tomorrow's video. It is about time that they printed and looked to complete this cycle, and I'm fucking hyped for it. In many ways, consider this a draftable Commander product. It's a shame that they have to be at rare, but hopefully the fixing is good at common and uncommon levels to at least allow some 2-colour or even 3-colour decks to be viable. I have faith. I have faith because, speaking of which, we've seen Command Tower and Commander Sphere at common, which is fantastic. Not only for the draft environment, but also because these cards are fucking great. Both tend to hold a price tag of $1 or more, so they're pretty good commons. I don't know if I've gone on enough on this channel about it, but I think the Sphere is almost an auto-include for most Commander decks. A mana rock or piece of ramp that you can cash in for a card in a pinch, or when flooding, or running low on gas in the late game. I think Commander Sphere is really fucking good, and I play it in the majority of my decks. The interesting thing about Commander Legends is that, whilst it's a Commander-themed set, with 4-player multiplayer being the focus of its draft environment, the singleton rule is not in place for those decks to make the drafting not lopsided. So you can draft every single Commander's Tower or Commander Sphere that you come across in order to play 3 colours, for example, which will be an option in the format, as we know that Prosh will show up in some boosters as part of the reprinted Legends. Some people were frustrated when they saw that the draft environment would not be singleton, but let's be fucking real, I was always fearful that if they had enforced a lot of the rules of Commander onto the draft environment, 100-card decks and singleton, it'd fuck things up and make it a miserable experience. So the fact that I have said it's just EDH, however, 60-card decks, no singleton rule. Sure, it's not Elder Dragon Highlander at that point, it's a Commander variant, but it makes sense for drafting. Sorry, I made jokes about it on Twitter, but it's just a bit of banter. I think this is a perfectly reasonable thing to do for a draft set. So, on top of colour fixing, mana fixing, all that jazz, it looks like 2-colour decks will be the norm, with the majority of commanders in the set being mono-coloured, but their partner. This makes a lot of sense for the draft environment, as it will allow you to pivot during draft. You might pick up a red monocolored partner commander in pack 2, allowing you to shift away from what you were doing previously in the game, and that's all part of drafting, and I think that's great. This does mean that partner is back, which is a controversial mechanic, shall we say, as it tends to push towards the more powerful end of the spectrum by virtue of giving the partner commander player a larger opening hand than anyone else. And personally, I'm not a huge fan of it, but I am not mad about it. The ones they have spoiled so far are cool and flavorful and not incredibly pushed, but they are uncommon. I am convinced that there will be some pretty gross ones at rare or mythic, because that's just what's going to happen, so expect a couple of absurd partners that will rock the CDH world and upset a few people. Just brace yourselves. And whilst we're talking about partner, I guess it's time to address the Piper. Yep, Seb McKinnon has brought us some insanely cool art for this card. A creature that waxes and wanes in its role and colour. It's a common that doesn't replace one of the 2 legends found in every pack. So every pack is 20 cards with 2 legends per pack, and this will not replace one of the legends, as explained in the reveal panel over the weekend. It's a draft common to allow you to fill out a second colour if you got cut and didn't pick up that blue or green or black commander you needed, for example. So the Piper is an archetype filler, a bit player. With 2 legends per pack, and obviously a pod of 8, and that's 3 packs per person, that's 48 legends in a draft. Yeah, honestly, I did actually take a little bit of time to work that out, all jokes aside. Math isn't my strong point. But with 48 legends in the draft, it's going to be unlikely that you're going to need to use this, but it's there for that rare circumstance where someone at the table managed to not draft a single legend, because they were prioritising, I don't know, commander spheres to sell on a Magic card market. I've seen people going off and criticising this Piper on social media for a multitude of reasons. Some people thinking it'll allow you to add a monocolour to any commander, like adding blue to Perforos, which means they just haven't read the fucking card. Others have read the card and got mad that they actually can't do the aforementioned adding of colours, because people are crazy. Others are like, it doesn't do anything, why would you play this? As if they've never fucking drafted before. Which is fine, I'm not ribbing you if you've never drafted, that's cool. Not everyone has the same experiences, and it's cool to be a newbie. But if you haven't drafted, take a step back and let people who have drafted perhaps inform your opinions, as opposed to getting angry on Twitter. Chill the fuck out. We've seen a Mana Conference reprint, and finally seen that the new Baron Senga calls back to the old one with +1/+1 counters, but 2 of them to emulate the old +2/+2 counters. But it's also a partner, and it has this cool ability where it gains counters equal to the life of a player who lost this turn, but it checks their life total at the beginning of the turn. A really cool thematic ability for a vampire, you know, stealing bloods and youth, all that sort of thing. But I can guarantee people are going to get confused, they're going to be scratching their heads trying to remember where the life totals were at after a 25-minute combo turn where only one player dies. And quite frankly, that's the kind of stuff that makes me laugh and love Commander. And then most excitingly, we saw the next evolution, the next step in that whole improving White. White has often folded to its own mass removal, one of its strengths also being its weaknesses, because, well, its biggest strength is board presence, tokens, and creatures on the board. I had people literally DMing me about Keeper of the Accord, and honestly, I like it. I'd be more likely to play this as a role player in a deck like Teshar or Saram or whatever, and similar, than I would the new Mangara from M21. The exciting thing about it is that potentially getting 3 lands out of it when you're behind, 3 basic planes for that matter. My only issue is that you have to be a little bit behind the rest of the board to get any good value out of this, and it also works to stabilise you but never put you ahead. Once you catch up, it suddenly doesn't do anything, it's just a 3/4 body for 4. I like it, I'd probably play it, but would a keyword like Vigilance or even Lifelink really have been too much to ask to make it a bit more useful when you're on parity with the rest of the board, or even dare I say it, ahead? It also runs the risk of doing not a whole lot to borderline nothing when you go first, and your opponents are ramping with things like artifacts like crypts and soul rings and such. It's a cool card and I like it and I'll probably play it, but it feels still not quite the kind of things that we get in, I'm checking my notes here, every green card in a standard set ever. And then, on the topic of green, we had the Commander Collection Green preview. And I'm going to say it, holy fucking shit, this is stacked. I actually love it. There's no Hoof for Oracle of Mordia, which were my big call outs in my video talking about the 5 cards I'd like to see in this quite a while ago now, like a year ago. But besides that, I don't think there's a single dud in here, and there's some equally as expensive and desirable cards as Hoof and Oracle, and both Hoof and Oracle were in Jumpstart recently. Having a green-themed Soul Ring and Command Tower is a sick idea. It also has Sylvan Library and Worldly Tutor in it, which are $40 cards. It also has, if you pick up the foil variant of this, the first ever foil printings of Bane of Progress and Worldly Tutor. I really can't say enough how impressive the selection is in terms of playability. There isn't a single real dud in the whole box, and there's a huge amount of actual real-world secondary market value, something that you don't see from Wizards of the Coast very often. I'm actually genuinely shocked, so much so that when I go back and look at the 5 cards I expected in the product, I was being super conservative of like Eternal Witnesses and Beast Withins and stuff, because I just expected it to be more like a Gideon's Spellbook, where this is more like, I don't know, an FTV meets Commander's Arsenal? But honestly, probably with less duds than FTV. The only card in the product that doesn't just come out of the box and into pretty much any and all green decks is probably Omnath, but even then, he is not bad in most green decks. There is a plane flying overhead, so I'm just waiting for that to finish. I think the only criticism I would level at this is kind of a one at the bureaucratic level again. There is no MSRP for this or any MTG product anymore. We simply do not know how much this is going to cost unless you do a little digging. Now, one Redditor posted the wholesale prices for this at roughly $25 for the normal and $50 for the foil, which usually is around half of what the stores sell them at. So they're suggesting that's going to be $50 for the normal and $100 for the foil one. Now, don't quote me on that. I'm just getting those numbers off of Reddit. And let's be real, the value in these is over $100 straight up, so I would imagine the normal is going to be at least $100 from most stores, especially with unique and interesting art, and the foils are probably going to be $200 upwards, just throwing some numbers out. Honestly, the removal of MSRP gets talked about a lot by content creators and people on social media as being a problem what causes this, but let's be real, like, this was happening long before Wizards of the Coast removed MSRP. Don't forget that FTVs were price gouged, Arsenals were price gouged, even like limited run Masters sets like Modern Masters 1 were price gouged by stores and vendors online. I think the real problem with the lack of MSRP from Wizards of the Coast is that A, it makes everything a little bit confusing, like you have to go digging to figure out what the actual rate should be or whether you're getting ripped off, and B, it kind of puts all the onus on being frustrated with stores for price gouging you when Wizards are just like dusting their hands of it and being like, oh, we don't give a fuck, so charge whatever you want. But honestly, the whole price gouging and pumping up costs and stuff is just a byproduct of having a collectible trading card game where these pieces of cardboard demand ludicrous prices. I don't think you can get away from that whether you had MSRP or not. That's right! It sounds like I'm defending Wizards. Cue the shill comments in the comment section below. Either way, I'm going to try to pick up one of these because the cards inside are generally great. The new arts are fucking fantastic. I just expected it to be more like Gideon's Spellbook, I guess, like a lower value inside and just a bit cheaper. I don't know how high I would go to get these things. I want them. I really like the art for the Seaborn Muse, perhaps more so than the old one. And I think Tachova could benefit from having a green-themed command tower. So I want them. I need them. I think the product's great. It's just going to be really fucking expensive. And I guess we're going to have to wait and see if the foiled versions curve more than your average Kim Kardashian. Your average Kim Kardashian? That makes it sound like there's multiples like robots. I've been Vince, also known as PleasantKenobi on the internet. Let me know in the comment section below how you're feeling about Commander Legends and Commander Collection Green. I'm pretty hyped. I'm disappointed at the lack of fetch lands, but that's just a given, right? I'm still excited to draft this if and when that's a possibility, considering the pandemic is still ongoing, and Commander Collection Green is an impressive slotting of very decent value cards into a set like that, which I was not expecting. So, on the whole, besides the mismanagement of reprints, which is just an ongoing problem with Wizards, I'm giving you all 1 thumb out of 1. No, I'll give you 2. 2 thumbs out of 2. 2 thumbs out of 1. I haven't figured out my scoring system yet. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Hit that subscribe button. Smash that fucking bell. And next time you're having a tummy tickle, think of this pickle. I thought of that on the fly. I am a poet, and I deserve all the credit I get in life. You can stop watching this video now, but tune in tomorrow for the Fetchland video. Ta-ta for now.